Hello, my name is Fan Zhang. I am lecturer from Griffith University in Australia. Today I'm going to present the research topic Indoor Air Quality in South East Queensland Dwellings during 2019 to 2020 bushfires. Australia has just experienced the longest bushfire season from September 2019 to March 2020. Apart from the direct costs, our bushfires also have indirect costs, mainly resulting from the population exposure to atmospheric particulate matter with a diameter less than 2.5 micrometers, which can penetrate deep into the respiratory systems. In Brisbane and Gold Coast, because of the bushfire, the 24-hour average PM 2.5 concentration have exceeded the National Environment Protection Measure for Ambient Air Quality Advisory Standards, which is 25 microgram per cubic meter for 24-hour average. To reduce the adverse health impacts, Queensland Government and health research studies have advised residents to stay indoors and minimize the transfer of outdoor air to the inside where possible. However, the effectiveness and feasibility of staying indoors is questioned by some recent studies. For one reason, most residential houses are not equipped with air purifiers or air conditioning systems with high efficiency filters. Hence, the outdoor pollutants can still penetrate houses, and the indoor and outdoor concentrations are often very close. For another reason, staying indoors may be impractical or ineffective during longer periods of bushfire events. So this study aims to explore the indoor air quality in SEQ dwellings from December 2019 to February 2020, which coincided with the 2019 to 2020 Australian bushfire season. And the objectives are to report residential IAQ conditions during the bushfire season and compare indoor and outdoor PM 2.5 concentrations during a bushfire day and a normal day. So altogether, 21 dwellings participated in this research study, 16 from Brisbane and 5 from Gold Coast. And characteristics of the dwellings can be seen in Table 2. So all dwellings are occupied by families. About 89% of dwellings are insulated. All dwellings have air conditioning systems installed, and no dwelling has an air purifier installed. During the monitoring period, the indoor air temperature, relative humidity, PM 2.5 and CO2 have been continuously monitored via a low-cost IAQ sensor. And the performance specification of the sensor can be seen in Table 3. The monitors were placed in participants' living rooms, and data were recorded in 15 minutes interval. And the outdoor air temperature, relative humidity, and outdoor PM 2.5 concentration from the closest monitoring stations were also acquired from the Queensland Government's website and matched post hoc with the indoor data for comparison. So this figure plots the indoor and outdoor daily average air temperature, and also the upper and lower 80% thermal acceptability limits based on Richard Didier's adaptive thermal comfort model for residential buildings. And the average indoor temperatures in Brisbane and Gold Coast dwellings frequently exceeded the upper 80% acceptability limits during the monitoring period. And the percentage of exceedance was 44% for Brisbane and 58% for Gold Coast. And this figure plots the indoor and outdoor daily average relative humidity. And we can see that the outdoor RH in Gold Coast was slightly higher than that in Brisbane. And indoor RH levels are similar in both conditions, in both locations, typically ranging between 50% and 80% in summertime. And this figure plots the 24-hour average indoor CO2 concentration in 21 dwellings. The mean CO2 level for all dwellings were below 500 ppm, and the 95th percentile for most dwellings were below 800 ppm, indicating good ventilation conditions in the living rooms. And this figure illustrates the 24-hour average indoor and outdoor PM2.5 concentration. And the 24-hour average outdoor PM2.5 in both locations were normally below 10 microgram per cubic meter. But due to the bushfire, the 24-hour average outdoor PM2.5 level in Brisbane has exceeded the threshold value, which is 25 microgram per cubic meter between December the 5th and December the 9th. And the peak value is 74 microgram per cubic meter. And similarly, the 24-hour average outdoor PM2.5 concentration in Gold Coast has exceeded the threshold value between December the 4th and December the 9th. And the peak value occurred on December the 8th at 59 microgram per cubic meter. So this table shows the results of independent t-tests, which examine the differences between the 24-hour average PM2.5 concentrations indoors and outdoors in Brisbane and Gold Coast. And the difference was statistically significant in Brisbane, but not significant in Gold Coast. So to further understand the impact of bushfire on the outdoor and indoor PM2.5 concentrations and the indoor to outdoor ratio, we have selected a typical bushfire day and a typical normal day for comparison. And as we can see from the first figure, during the typical bushfire day, the hourly outdoor PM2.5 concentration displayed a drastic range, and the indoor to outdoor ratio fluctuated between 0.2 to 7.5, with the mean level of 1.55. So it means that the daily average indoor PM2.5 level during the bushfire day was actually 55% higher than its outdoor counterparts, indicating that closing doors and windows during bushfire events may not always bring benefits. The second figure shows the a typical normal day. And we can see that outdoor PM2.5 concentration fluctuated between 4 and 8.4 microgram per cubic meter. And the I to O ratio ranged between 0.2 and 1.0, with a mean level of 0.54. So to conclude the study, during the monitoring period, about half of the days in both Brisbane and Gold Coast exhibited indoor air temperatures that exceeded the residential adaptive comfort model's upper 80% acceptability limit. The indoor RH typically range between 50 to 80%, and the indoor CO2 concentration were typically below 500 ppm. And the indoor 24-hour average PM2.5 concentration in Brisbane was significantly lower than its outdoor counterpart, but the difference was not statistically significant in Gold Coast. However, given the accuracy of the sensors, the indoor and outdoor PM2.5 concentrations were still very close during the normal building ventilation conditions. And also during a typical bushfire day, the hourly indoor to outdoor ratio of PM2.5 can range between 0.2 and 7.5 due to the reduced ventilation during bushfire events. And the daily average level of 1.55 means that staying indoors with windows and doors closed might not always protect occupants from fine particulates during bushfires. So this is pretty much about this research project, and thank you very much for listening.